Welcome to Tuesday Talks. We realize that life is hard. We all have questions that we wouldn't even think about asking out loud. The comforting thing is, you're not alone. We're all asking them. That's what this podcast is for. Each week, we're going to talk about hard questions and painful points in life. We won't shy away from anything. If you've thought it, we're going to talk about it so you feel seen and understood. Join us for our conversation this week on Tuesday Talks.
What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining us for another episode of Tuesday Talks. I hope you guys are having a great Christmas season so far.
No.
By the time
It is
this come-
Thanksgiving season.
Well, right now it is.
Oh.
when this
That's
comes
when it's coming out. Yo,
Yeah.
congratulations, we made it to Christmas. Dude,
But
that's
it is
crazy.
Currently, I've had this argument with the other two episodes I've recorded today. It is currently Christmas season.
No, it is not.
It is.
It is not. When does Christmas
Thank
begin?
you. Thank you, Corinne.
When
I
does
feel
Christmas
seen.
begin?
I haven't decorated yet, but I think it's okay to be.
The logic
a
I
little bit of
heard
both.
this morning that I actually think could sway me was Amanda Baldwin, who's on our staff, was telling us that Jesus lived, died for 3 days, took a pause, and then came back to life. And that's essentially what we celebrate with Christmas, is that we celebrate Christmas, we pause for 3 days for Thanksgiving, and then we go back to Christmas. And I'm
Yes.
like, that is the only thing that could probably sway me.
We
I
take a
love that
3-day
logic.
break from Christmas celebration to be thankful
And it's
give
Jesus'
Thanksgiving.
birth, so
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
We celebrate for 2 months. You know, we're like one of the only countries in the world that doesn't celebrate Christmas for more than a month.
Oh,
I
that's
actually
sad.
didn't know that. That is sad.
Like all the Latin American countries, they celebrate Christmas. Like Puerto Rico celebrates Christmas for 2.5 months.
Sweet.
That's dope. Do they
Like-
celebrate Thanksgiving?
I think so, because I think it
that a
goes in
national
December
holiday
into
for them?
January.
Okay.
Because they also have like another holiday, but it's all wrapped into Christmas.
Cool.
And because when we went on our mission trip, they were telling us when I went forever ago, they were like, "Yeah, it's Christmas time for 2 months here," and I was like, "This is the place to be." So, anyways, as you can tell, I'm not here alone. I've got two lovely people in Grant and Corinne Allen. How are you guys doing?
What
Doing
up?
great.
Doing awesome. Doing awesome.
So, just to preface, I guess this episode we had Wednesday night last week, where we got to kind of open up a conversation about dating, and a lot of questions kind of came in through that, and all of us had conversations after about dating and things like that, and so you know what, it was just like let's have a dating 101 episode, the basics of dating, maybe a foundational conversation, and who knows. Maybe in the love month of February, we'll come back to a dating series of Tuesday Talks. If you hate that idea, let us know. Text Tuesday to 98173. If you love that idea, let me know.
Yeah,
Text
let us
Tuesday
know.
to 98173. But anyways, Grant, Corinne, dating 101, just, basics, and we'll just kind of see where this goes. And so like the first thing is, I think the first question is, why does understanding dating, maybe the goal of dating, and what it looks like, why does that matter? Because isn't dating just for fun?
I would say to that question specifically and trying to get to foundation pieces, if you're sitting there going like, what's the beginning points? Dating is so much fun. It could be one of the most fun things that you get to discover and have fun with, or it could become one of the most talked about, heard that you experience during your time, because people are broken, relationships are difficult, and they can be some of the most life-giving or life-draining things if you're not careful. And so that's why I think it matters that with any relationship, if you were telling me a friendship, a parent relationship, any connection that you have with a human being, you should have a why and a goal. If you do not, then you actually are not coming at it with any expectations, and you're going to end up getting hurt, and that'll be the first time you ever think about it. And I don't want hurt to be the first thing that we experience, and it's the first thing on the graph or meter that's like, oh man, this is something I need to pay attention to, is after you've tried to like somebody and they rejected you, or after you've been in a really long relationship and regret. I'd rather you start now thinking about your relationships, period, including dating.
Yeah, and I think, there's a lot about dating that can be fun. I think it's so easy to miss the point of things. And I think about if we're looking at our lives and our focus is on us, then yeah, dating, it's like, isn't it just for fun? It's like, for me, like to have a great time with people. But when we think about if we've given our lives to Jesus and we're actually trying to live lives that are looking to Jesus and to his word, we don't see a ton of verses about dating, but we see a lot about the relationship between man and woman as brother and sister in Christ. So this call to respect people, which would be also including the people we're dating, fall into the category of family that we need to respect and honor because God cares for them too. And then marriage. And so dating was kind of this term that humans created as like a pathway towards marriage, but it hasn't changed that the end goal of dating would be marriage. Not that the end goal of every relationship is to marry that person, but dating is a way to honor the Lord, to, if the Lord has it in the picture for you, to eventually marry someone, whether it be the person you're dating or dating in a way that still honors the Lord, but discovers, ooh, this like is not actually character that I probably like want to marry one day. And I think it's hard too, because we get really caught up. We hear that and it's like, wow, gosh, I'm dating this guy and I don't know if I would marry them. Like I wouldn't marry him tomorrow. So should I break up with him? And I think we do need discernment when it's like, ooh, this is not good. And you know it. And if you're having to ask yourself, like, should I probably break up? You probably should. But there's other times that we do need to take the pressure off of, yes, the end goal is marriage, but you don't have to know right now if you're going to spend forever with this person. But you do need to know if this person shows no character and no proven character or qualities of someone that you want to be with one day that honors the Lord, that God, like the kind of guy or girl that God has called husbands and wives to be. If there's nothing showing that, no desire to be with Jesus, no kindness towards people, no patience, like none of this character, then like that's a red flag we need to be looking for of that's not the kind of person that you want to be with forever. And so we don't want to date. We don't want to stay in those relationships, but we also don't have to know right now what the rest of our life is going to look like.
Right. But the idea of, you kept saying marriage and marry, and that word and commitment just in general terrifies me. Like the thought of spending my entire life with one person, being locked down, just chained to that commitment, not getting to go meet other people, not getting to be friends with other people of the opposite gender, things like that. Like that all sounds awful. Like that does not seem appealing at all. Does that disqualify me from dating? Like, should I not date, or am I okay? Just because, you're saying I don't have to know, and that's great. But like, do I need to know? Like, do I need to, like, I don't know. Does that question make sense?
I would say in this entire part, as you're evaluating whether or not you're ready to date or not, don't let your feelings decide, like, period. Like, they're great gauges of where you're at currently and what you're, like, excited for and not, but they're really terrible guides. And so that's something that we had a friend share with us that I think is just a really impactful phrase to help us. So if you're like, I hate this, or I don't, like, I would just be careful with using absolutes of this is just how it's going to be. I would push back that if you're like, I have no desire or really even care to be committed to somebody forever. I don't even know who I am. I don't really know what I want to do. I don't know who I want to be. I would say like that may be a good evaluation moment to go, you can't really share with someone else something you don't know about. So don't start going down the road of sharing with someone else your life when you don't even know what that life really even looks like yet. And caution for high schoolers, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, if you're sitting in this moment going, I've never had a boyfriend, that shouldn't be a bad thing. If you've done it out of wisdom and choice, not because maybe some other things are at play, like I'm waiting for the perfect guy or the perfect soulmate. I've got this cookie cutter person in my mind. But it's actually that you're looking for good character and evaluating, man, like I need to know some things basics like of my life. Where's my walk with Jesus at? Like I would ask that first and foremost. You don't have to have everything planned, but you got to know where your life with Jesus is like. How does Jesus love? How does Jesus care for other people? How does he serve one another? If you don't have really clear biblical answers for that, that may be where you need to start before you get into dating is what I would say.
Yeah, and I think, this is where we've talked about this in so many episodes, but where accountability is so crucial because
Yeah.
you are not going to be able to like determine this on your own. Like you need trusted people that can speak into your life because there is a difference between like, ooh, the thought of forever just kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like I think there's a natural piece of us as humans that are just used to things having a start and an end. And so something like marriage that doesn't have an end, it's like that can maybe feel a lot, but there's a difference between that and you don't possess the qualities of being someone who practices long suffering, a word we don't always talk about, but like patience and follow through and devotion. And if that's something that hasn't been cultivated in your life versus like, oh, I'm just a little freaked out by the thought of forever, that's a little different than like, I don't possess actually the qualities. I'm not practicing. I'm not growing in the area of following through with things that I commit to. And so where accountability I feel like can help is if that's not something you're practicing in your personal relationship with the Lord, like if you're not committed and you don't follow through with following Jesus after saying that you're going to follow him, or you bail on your family or your friends, I would encourage you to maybe consider not dating.
Yes.
You don't have to have it all figured out to start dating. But again, if the goal actually is marriage and it's not just to have fun, we might need to be willing to like give up like, oh, it'd just be really fun to have attention and like companionship with someone. Like, yeah, that's a very normal thing. But the point of marriage even is to reflect the gospel to the world. And so if that's a representation of the gospel, that's like a bigger deal than just, oh, they're cute, I want to spend forever with them.
Yeah.
And so I think like your question does make sense. And it's a very real thing because we live in a world where you can just jump to the next thing. There's so many hobbies, there's so many sports, there's so many things you can be involved in, interested in, so many friends and so many options. And we like the feeling of options. And I guess what we really probably like is in keeping our options open is we like control. And the very gospel is giving up control. And so if that's something that we're really struggling with, it's not go work on it so that you can then have a boyfriend or girlfriend. But I would say go cultivate that because first and foremost, if you don't know how to be devoted to the Lord, follow through on your word, then there's a lot that you probably don't need to be involved in. And dating would be one of those things.
That's good.
So what are qualities that I need to see in another person, but then also in myself? I've heard you guys say like a relationship with Jesus. Well, you know, they go to church, so that means they have a relationship with Jesus. So does that qualify them and me to be able to date, or you know, how does the qualification process go?
Yeah, this is where it's so interesting because I feel like we say like having a relationship with Jesus and we want to separate that from, oh, this person grew up in a Christian home or they attend church. Like they're such a godly person. Like that's not what we're looking for. But we also have to be careful because we're not looking for a list of things that are perfectly executed by someone. And so it's a balance of, we talk about proven character over potential. And so I would say part of what you're looking for is not what they will tell you about their character, but what you see. And we would say this, not just what you alone see when you're texting or snapping or hanging out alone, but what you see when, I'll talk he, but when you're looking at a guy and how he talks to his parents or about his siblings or about these adults or how he reacts when things don't go his way. And so that's where, for ourselves, we're looking at walking with Jesus. What does that mean? Looks like accountability, discipleship. Are you in a place where you actually desire to be with God and live his way? Not, are you doing that perfectly, but are you working through? Do you feel convicted when you sin? Are you treating people with kindness? And are you studying the fruit of the Spirit? Like, is his love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, are all of those things overflowing from a place of you spend time with God and the evidence of his work in your life is these things? Not perfectly, but is that there? And in the same way, is that in this person? Not, they said they love people, but do I see without them using words?
Yeah.
Oh, they love people. Oh, they don't cut corners or cheat on tests. They don't have a like rage anger
Yeah.
episode when
Yeah.
something doesn't go their way. They're actually really patient, or when they get it wrong, I actually just saw this person apologize. Like, those are some of the character things we're looking for.
I agree with that completely. I think it would be good for you to evaluate in any way if you want to watch somebody what they value and prioritize. There's a really simple way. It's just where they put their time, what they talk about, and where they spend their money. Now, for high schoolers, money is probably not a major one, but time and talk is a huge one. So I would, and I know this may seem weird, and this is just where I need, hopefully, if we've built up any trust or you're trying to seek after Jesus, you will see this in wisdom through the Holy Spirit. But be weird when it comes to you asking, young man, when you're asking a girl, young lady, when you're asking a guy, and you're trying to figure out if they have proven character potential. Ask the weird question and go, when's the last time you studied God's word? Like, tell me about your time in the word. Tell me about like your time with, like, tell me about, you don't have to get into really deep sin or anything like that. That is not for that time. Please do not. But I do think there's a way for you to ask just what is valuable in your life. When you watch their life, do they tell you, just without you even asking, do they tell you about things that the Lord's teaching them? Do they show up and they are engaged in church? Do they have a group of accountability guys around them that you don't even have to force him to go find a group? You actually are going, he already has a group of people that he is held accountable to. Those are character qualities and people that are ready and prepared. What I will say, that shortens your pool of people really quickly. That doesn't have to happen by your first date, but it needs to be something you're evaluating super early. It needs to be something you're paying attention to as you're starting to get to know this person. So I always tell my guys, pull out a notes page, put her name at the top of it, and you find those core like qualities and characteristics. And until you have that and you bring that to your group and go, hey, I want to pursue this girl. This is something I've seen in her. And for them to be able to throw caution flags or red flags and all those. And it's like, I trust only this select group of people that I know are following Jesus or listen to the Spirit, and they can tell me. Then that's the green light to go, all right, let's start pursuing this girl for specifically guys. That's what I would say.
And just to speak to that, it's a terrifying process, but ultimately it is a very plentiful is not the right word. It's worth it, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That process is definitely worth it. Even though it's terrifying that it could get shot down, it's like, hey, this girl's awesome or this guy's awesome. But if you trust the people, you trust that they have the right interest, your best interest at heart. And so I guess kind of the final question is something, Grant, that you talked about is, should I, as I'm evaluating, looking at all these different things, how much does the people that they spend time with matter? He or she spend time with, like, he's on the football team. Those football guys, they may not be the best guys, but those are the people he's with the most often. So does that make him not good? Or, she's, with this group of people, they're not the best, but like that's because of the hobby or the sport that he or she plays. That's who they're with most often. Does that matter? Should I hold that to a really high standard? Or, does it matter what people they spend their time with? Because there's something that you mentioned, Grant, and I was just like, man, that's a good clarification.
I think this is probably in a separate episode, but who you hang out with matters. Absolutely. Who they hang out with matters. I don't think it's a prerequisite to whether or not you take them out on a date if they're on a football or basketball or cheerleading team that may not have believers on it or may have really, really rough people on it. That may be their ministry field. That may not. I think paying attention to if they have an accountability. I think that's what I care about most. Do they have people that are able to call them out and call them up? I would lean towards that more than I would anything else. Like if they have people that are around them doing that and they love Jesus and that's clear that this is an accountability group, that's not like just a hype session. It's truly like a group that's and there's a separate episode that you can find on Tuesday Talks that's about accountability. So I would encourage you to go back and look at that. If you're like, I don't know what this means, I don't know what this looks like. We have an episode on it and it was really, really fun to get to talk about it. But I would just present to you, pay attention to if they have a group of people that can call them out and call them up. And that is probably, if they have that in their life, then I would say you probably have a good green light.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked about this on other episodes, I know, but if they don't have people in their life that don't know the Lord, I would be concerned.
For sure.
But if they only have people in their life that don't know the Lord and there's no accountability, no way that they're getting into biblical community, I would also be concerned because you want someone that's not stuck in a bubble, like that's not living out the mission of the gospel to reach people with the good news.
Right.
But we also can't use like, I'm just reaching people for the gospel and I'm just hanging out slowly being pulled down
Yeah.
all the time. And so finding the balance of, I don't think it's so much about like quantity of time spent. I think it definitely goes back to more motives and are they aware of it? So like maybe their whole life is spent like with football, but maybe they're aware of it and they're involved in life groups in a D group or maybe just life groups. And I don't think it has to be like they have to be in this specific group, but are they seeking out accountability? Not just attending, but like actually engaging in conversation. Are people let into his or her life? And are they seeking that out in addition to who they hang out with? Or are they just like, oh, I'm a strong Christian, it won't affect me? Because I think that's just ignorant.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that this conversation could span as many episodes as we want it to, just because there's so many different nuances in dating of just like we try and have it black and white, and it is very much not black and white other than they need to be a believer first and foremost. But then past that, it's like there's just so much conversation that can go into it. And so we'll get into more of it. We got questions last Wednesday and we're probably going to get more. And those are questions that we will get to. But if you're listening to this and you're like, please, please, please talk about this, you can send it in. If you text Tuesday to 98173, send them to us. Let us know because we know that this is a really weird and difficult spot to be in because you want to be dating someone. You feel like you need to be dating someone. And that's just not the case. But like that's just how high school and middle school are. It's a tough time. And so we want to be able to help you. And so with that, Grant, Corinne, thank you guys for being on. Look forward to breaking this down even more later on.
Yeah.
So anyways, with that, hope you guys have a great week and continue to enjoy the Christmas season because it is Christmas time.
Let's go.
Christmas.
As you listen
Merry
to
Christmas.
This. So Merry Christmas, you guys. We will talk to y'all later. See ya.